Big 12 expansion. Let's do that. I think this has been a historic 24 hours, really, when you go back to Colorado making the move official. And I think the real question here is, can the Pac-12 survive? I think that is really the beginning and the end of this conversation. And I will tell you, candidly, I have worked very hard today to gather information. I have worked very hard today to have conversations with people in the know. I think the league is going to survive. I think it is going to look very different a year from now than it looks today. And one of the real interesting conversations this morning early started with Oregon State. One of the first text messages I got back was, hey, Oregon State is very aggressively on the phones with the Big Ten and with the Big 12 trying to get a conversation started. Now, what I understand is Oregon State was not really able to gain traction in those efforts, but Oregon State is being very, very aggressive in trying to find an avenue and create options for themselves. And I would tell you just about every member of the conference is doing that exact same thing, because I think they know that they have let too much time go on. And I think Brett Yormark and the Big 12, Jake, rightfully so, have become impatient with the Pac-12 membership, waiting and waiting and waiting. And now it's time for the Big 12 to kind of dictate terms here.
Yeah, and that seems like kind of a common theme that we're experiencing and witnessing here, people being impatient, right? I mean, that's where Colorado leaving really the genesis of the whole conversation. It is like, hey, we can't get a TV deal done, right? We've seen, everybody from the WNBA to, the Phoenix Suns to the Vegas Golden Knights, now NASCAR. Like you're seeing, obviously the Big Ten TV deal came down before those. Like you saw all these different TV deals get done, and the Pac-12 couldn't find their way to a completed deal. And so when we talk about the Big 12 getting sort of impatient, if you will, I don't know if impatience even the right word, or just seizing an opportunity. Because, again, the Big 12, I feel like, and specifically Brett Yormark, has been incredibly patient allowing the Pac-12 to walk itself down the road of death might be strong, but walking itself down the road of implosion, in a sense, where not getting a deal, and it would have been easy for the Big 12 to act in December. It would have been easy for the Big 12 to get busy in March, but they didn't do that. They waited and waited and waited, and what they understood was, okay, and this came out the other day, that Colorado and the Big 12 had been talking. So Colorado was the Big 12 was in the know with the information, because they were talking to Colorado. So the Big 12 and Brett Yormark have been patient, but that patience is now over with, because now it's time to act. And so they get Colorado, but the question really is, who else are they going to add? Because I don't believe that it's just going to be one more school. Because why would you just add one more school? Why would you not add 3 more schools? Opportunity is here. You can see a path to it. You can see how it would benefit your conference. You begin to understand that, hey, Brett Yormark's talked all about the Pacific time zone and expanding into a 4th time zone. Rick George referenced the fact that the conference is already in 3 time zones. So we know that they want to get out west. So I don't buy any of this stuff about how, hey, the Big 12 is really kind of laying pressure on or being impatient with teams moving. I think they're just working out deals right now.
Yeah, I think there's no reason to rush. And it was very interesting. One of the first phone calls I had today, a guy that I trust excessively. Everything that guy has ever told me has been nails. And he said to me, what's really changed for the Big 12? From the moment that Colorado called last Thursday night to the moment that they released the announcement that Colorado was joining the conference. What has really changed? Well, Colorado's the only thing that's changed. The timeline's not changed. Their desire to go to 14 or 16 has not changed. And the availability of teams wanting to join the conference has not changed. Nothing has changed. It hasn't gotten more urgent, hasn't gotten less urgent. The timetable's the same. They're going to make the best decision. But what I think you're hearing, and again, with all due respect to Heather Dinich, I think she's being leveraged as she was last week. You're playing politics now. The Big 12 wants teams to know we are here and we are ready. And if you are not here and ready now, we're probably going to pass you by. And I think that's why you're hearing so much about Oregon, because I think Oregon would very much like to get out of the Pac-12. I don't know that they have a route to do that. I think very much that one of the big concerns for the Big 12 right now is how many teams are wanting to join the league, but how many teams are just looking for greener grass, more fruitful pastures, not to be in the Big 12. I think the Big 12 and Brett Yormark and his membership want universities that desire to be in the Big 12. The biggest concern with Oregon is the size of that brand. You worry about them constantly chasing a paycheck. And I think that's one of the reasons that there is some hesitation amongst Big 12 presidents to add Oregon. It's not the rubber stamp that you think it would be, because I also think there is a very real conversation about just how stable the long-term viability of the Big 12 is. Because once the Pac-12 goes away, everybody assumes that the Big 12 is, hey, they're rock solid. And I would tell you that I don't necessarily know that that's the case. I think when you look at the Big 12, putting the foot on the throat of the Pac-12 is an easy decision. Frankly, the decision made itself. But if you start looking at the reality and the landscape of college athletics, the Big Ten's making $100 million baseline. Their baseline is $70 million more than the Big 12's. The SEC's baseline is $20 million more than the Big 12's. And I think it's great that you have Rucker and Mexico and Kansas City and Pro Day and Big 12 championship game at AT&T Stadium. All of that is great. That is all going to make you money. It's great you're a power basketball league. All of that is great. That, frankly, allows you to close the gap between the Big 12 and the Big 10. But at the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult for the Big 12 to ever be anything than the third biggest league in college athletics. That is the reality. Now, is the Big Three a thing? Sure it is. But let's all not just sit here and write off the ACC, because by all accounts, and several people I talked to today are all over the fact that Florida State is actively trying to recruit new members to the ACC so they can open up their TV deal and get the fuck out of the ACC, because that's what Florida State wants. So Florida State, and I think this is a very interesting situation in the ACC. Florida State, oh yeah, let's expand. Yeah, let's expand. Let's take advantage. Let's expand. Well, what does expansion really mean? Expansion means you have to go back to your TV contract and your TV partners, and you have to say, hey, we need to renegotiate our deal because we're adding teams. That's when the ACC's grant of rights becomes vulnerable. And I think Florida State realizes that. And I think Florida State would like to get out. Is Florida State going to the Big 12? They're not. They would be going to the SEC.
Right.
And if Florida State's in the SEC is no longer worth $50 million a year. Now it's probably worth $55 million a year per school. Right? Like, the money goes up. The donors go up. The basketball product in the SEC goes up. The TV viewership goes up. The marketing dollars go up. Florida State, for everything that's not on the football field, is a power brand that brings money. So you have to consider this, and I think that's why this moment in time is going to determine where the Big 12 is in 15 years. Because I do believe that the powers that be in this game want two power conferences, and that's it. And if you are going to survive what I would think could be an onslaught of poaching at the end of the Big Ten and at the end of the SEC deals, I think you better right now today do everything you can do to lock in the biggest brands in the Pac-12. And I think that's Oregon, Washington, and Arizona. Those are the three that I think you have to have. And if you can get your hands on Utah, that'd be great. But I also think, again, this goes back to our discussion about Gonzaga basketball. You better add Gonzaga to this league, because what does Gonzaga do? They bring tournament money, which is a payment over 5-6 years. Like, you need that basketball money. And I think it's really a scary proposition. I know that you guys are all sitting there shaking your head and you're telling me I'm crazy, but let's appreciate what's going to happen in the future, and that today the moves that Brett Yormark and the Big 12 make are going to impact the viability of this league into the future. And I truly don't believe I'm making too much of that.
Well, isn't that why the Pac-12 is in the position it's in? I mean,
that's
exactly
let's be
honest, right? I mean, that's why the Pac-12 is here, because they didn't consider the future. They were ignorant. They were arrogant.
Yes.
They were prideful. They were brazen in the way that they went about mismanaging money. And you did not hear me incorrectly. I said they were brazen about the way they mismanaged their money. They didn't seem to take it too seriously. They felt like it wasn't all that big of a deal. And frankly, I agree with some of the things you said this week, which is, hey, George Kliavkoff has been worse than Larry was. At least when Larry Scott was your commissioner, USC was at the height of its powers, right? You were this up and coming conference. You were still rising. Even though you were paying all this money that you didn't need to pay, you were still rising. You were going in a positive direction. And then that all kind of came to an end. And so when we talk about the Big 12 getting this right, I think it's imperative that you don't miss. And missing is a variety of different things. Missing could be adding too many brands. Missing could be adding not enough brands. It could be adding the wrong brands. So that's why I say I agree with you completely. Those first three, right? Arizona, Oregon, and Washington, those three are the must-haves, no doubt about it. I think the only question really that any of us have is a program like, in Oregon State, obviously Utah, right? These other sort of outside programs that clearly have value, that clearly would bring in money to your conference. But if you really project forward 10 years from now, who do you feel better about having won a couple national championships on the football field? And that's in the Pac-12, that's Oregon. I'm taking Oregon over Utah, respectfully.
And I think if you roll the dice with Oregon, and, the odd thing here is that everybody this morning on Twitter
excuse me, it's X.
I'm so sorry, Elon.
Damn.
Everybody on the keyboard warrior platform, is that how we say it nowadays?
Yes, that's right.
Everybody on Twitter this morning was DMing me about the Big Ten. The Big Ten. What's the Big Ten doing? I don't know what the Big Ten's doing. But what I've heard is they're answering the phone. Nothing has changed in the Big Ten. Business as usual. And it feels very much like the Big 12 and the Big 10 are in lockstep. Nothing has changed. Their timelines have not changed. The availability of Pac-12 teams or universities to come to their conference has changed, but nothing on timeline has changed. There's no impetus for the Big 10 to act. They already got the Brinks truck. They got the bag. They're already getting multiple seats at the table, deserved or undeserved. The Big Ten's already getting multiple seats at the college football playoff table. Now, if it were me, I would add Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal. But that's a very complex math in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I don't know what ultimately happens, but I've heard repeatedly the Big Ten has engaged with multiple schools in the Pac-12. I know that Oregon State was on the phone trying to work with the Big Ten, and I don't know that meant much. And I know that this is a statement that, President Murthy at Oregon State released and Scott Barnes, who I hold in very high regard, released today. But the one question I would have for you is, where in this statement does it say we are not leaving the Pac-12? If you go ahead and read through this. Oregon State joins with other Pac-12 members in reaffirming our commitment to the long-term strength and vitality of the conference. We are united by our shared values, our passion for the highest level of intercollegiate athletic competition. Our leadership role is a Tier 1 research universities, and our support for student athletes, academics, and athletic excellence. Where does it say in there, we are not leaving the Pac-10?
Well, that's the issue, isn't it?
I don't know. Then Scott Barnes, the athletic director. Oregon State Athletics trusts that the Big 12 will secure a media rights deal that will strongly benefit the institutions that are remaining loyal to this conference. All of us at Oregon State will continue to work hard and diligently to continue our long-term membership and success of our athletic department at a national level. Where there does it say they're not leaving?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Where there does it say that, hey, this is our conference? And it doesn't. And you know, the funny thing is, it is eerily reminiscent of what Phil DiStefano said. Because you'll remember that Phil DiStefano, last week, I think 8 days ago, Phil DiStefano tweeted, or Brett McMurphy tweeted Phil DiStefano saying, I'm eagerly awaiting to hear about what the commissioner has to say, but at this point, the Pac-10 schools are staying together and awaiting a message from the commissioner.
A beacon of hope.
CU's goal is to stay within the Pac-12. Have a media deal coming up shortly. That's our goal, and I believe the presidents and chancellors of the Pac-12 are together on that.
Right.
Now, I am no rocket science, and clearly, as you can tell, I am no literary scholar either.
Right.
But read that statement on the screen. Which one did I just read? Phil DiStefano or the one that's on the screen from Oregon State?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, they are very similar.
I mean,
Like,
are
really
they not
similar.
chapter and verse? There it is right there. We're waiting to hear what the commissioner has to say, but at this point, the 10 schools are staying together awaiting a message from the commissioner. Oregon State Athletic trusts the Pac-12 will secure a media rights deal that will strongly benefit the institutions that are remaining loyal to the conference. CU's goal is to stay with the Pac-12 and have a media rights deal coming up shortly. That is our goal. President Murthy said Oregon State University joins with the Pac-12 members in reaffirming our commitment to the long-term strength and vitality of the conference. Funny. And I believe all the presidents and chancellors of the Pac-12 are together on that. I mean, they're saying the exact same thing.
Different words, same thing.
Phil DiStefano is now in the Big 12. They're saying the exact same thing. So I can tell you, and I can confidently tell you, that Oregon State, according to my sources, was on the phone as late as last night with other conferences. So that's great you released a statement. But note, they haven't come out and said we're not leaving this conference. They haven't done what, Utah did several months ago now.
Yeah.
Right? They what Mark Harlan said, we're not leaving.
Yeah.
Remember that? We're not leaving. Give me a break. I mean, that's a strong, when you say we're not leaving, that makes me think you're staying in the Pac-12. But I'm just telling you right now, this doesn't mean dick for Oregon State leaving the conference.
Yeah, and I think if you're Oregon
Nothing.
State, you don't have a choice but to evaluate what's best for your university now. I mean, you have to act here. I mean, this is not like, hey, we're just looking at something
You have no choice. Like, again, and this is, and I appreciate all of the Pac-12 mouthpieces DMing me today on Twitter, congratulating me. I didn't do anything. Like, it's so weird to me because look at the statement from last night from the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is comprised of world-leading universities and athletic programs who share a commitment to developing the next generation of leaders, supporting student athletes, academic excellence. Wait, I'm sorry. Did you just copy and paste that, President Murthy, from Oregon State? Because there's Oregon State's statement about intercollegiate athletic competition. Our leadership role as a Tier 1 research institution. We're united by our shared values for passion, blah, blah, blah. Did you just copy and paste that right from this statement?
It's almost like Oregon State put their statement together as an obligation. We just got to put one out.
Look at this second paragraph from the Pac-12. 10.
Uh-huh.
We are focused on concluding our media rights deal and securing our continued success and growth. You know, which is exactly what Scott Barnes said here. You know,
10.
all of us, Oregon State trusts that the Pac-12 will secure a media rights deal that will strongly benefit institutions that are remaining loyal to this conference. But again, I just ask you, where in that Oregon State statement does it say we're not leaving?
Yeah, and where did it say that Colorado wasn't leaving? And, where did it say in any of Arizona's comments that they're not leaving? Oh, that's right, it doesn't. It doesn't. And that's where I say, like, dude, like, they're literally, like, when I saw both of those statements, I was like, all right, cool. So you haven't said anything new. You haven't acknowledged that you have a problem. You've just chosen once again to ignore the fact that you're bleeding out, which I think is the perfect analogy for what the Pac-12 is going through. You're quite literally bleeding out. You've lost 3 schools now over the last year, and we want to sit here and talk about how everyone's united and the conference is moving forward and we're going to secure a media rights deal. Do you really think that anybody who is an option for you as a media rights partner likes what the conference has to offer right now? I mean, honestly, like if you're Apple, if you're ESPN, if you're Fox, anybody, whoever, and you're looking at the Pac-10,
Dude.
You're like, dude, why would we're not signing, we're not agreeing to anything right now, because ultimately you don't have a conference, really. Like, you don't have any stability right now. There's no confidence that you're going to be existing. So if you're a TV partner or a streaming partner, don't you have to wait this process out now? Don't you have to wait like today's
I
the
think
28th?
you do.
Don't you have to wait at least like 2-3 weeks?
I think you do.
I mean, I can't see. I don't know how you would feel comfortable, curating a deal if tomorrow a school is going to leave. I mean, that's just not smart business.
No, it's bizarre to me. It'd be like not taking the buckshot on time here on the Monty Show.
Yeah.
Before we get to your comments, the official energy provider of the Monty Show is Bucked Up Energy. Every day at this time, you guys know we do it. We hit a buckshot, clean, long-lasting energy to power us through the show. I love it. 200 milligrams of caffeine. Played some golf today.
Golf.
Actually played excellent golf today. Hit the driver exceptionally well. Showed the ladies, how it's done.
Right.
Right. Never mind. I went to the bathroom today. And in the building we reside in, here in our offices, the mighty Monty penthouse office suite. When you have to do your business, which is to say, drop the kids off at the pool, you go down to the gym, right?
Yeah.
You go down to the gym.
bench?
There's 2 bathrooms that are unisex.
Do you even lift?
Go to the first one, which I always go to. Open the door. There's a lady sitting on the can.
How?
Come on, man.
How?
I don't know
First of all, why would you leave the door unlocked? And I'm not really sure.
She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, hey, no problem. Women don't poop. I know you're just chilling in the dark. It's all fine. She said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I said, no worries. And I closed the door and she locked it. I don't know why I told that story. Bucked Up Energy, the official energy provider of the Monty Show. Get free 6 buckshots in the description below. And you guys, they really make a difference. If you're that dude that, hey, this weekend when you're golfing, you feel a little energy low, right around the 11th hole, pop a buckshot. It'll get you right through the rest of the round. If you're having that post-lunch carb crash, pop a buckshot. It'll get you through the rest of your day. In fact, if you know that you have a big spreadsheet or pivot table you got to hit, and it's going to take some focus, that's what buckshot's all about. And, of course, Bucked Up Energy, Miami, is my favorite flavor, although Mike Maples, God bless you, one of our listeners. I had a cherry the other day, a cherry gummy bear.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the
flavor
official
name,
flavor is, but oh my God, it is so good. Bucked Up Energy is amazing. Always 0 sugar, always clean, long-lasting energy. Hook it up right now. Buckedup.com. Use the promo code Monty20 to get 20% off your purchase. at buckedup.com. Let's get your comments rolling in here. Let's see. Corey Erickson gives us $5 to say, on the plane to Africa. Really? Gonna miss the live shows for 2 weeks. See y'all when I get back. Hope news gets better while I'm gone. Hey, dude, enjoy Africa. Good for you. Live your life, my guy. Live your life. I really hope you'll come back and tell us all about it.
I need to go home.
Yeah, super excited. Well, I don't know that he's African, man, but super excited for you. Please don't get eaten by a lion. D. Maxwell for $2. Pac-12-1. So much BS on Twitter. Thank you. You're welcome. Anthony Zappin. Anthony, how are you? Gives us $5. Not just Colorado has changed. CW effectively out as a media partner for the Pac-9 with NASCAR deal and Saturday races and ACC games. Pac-9 is done. Well, it's funny. We're pretty well connected at Nexstar Media. And we were talking to several of our sources there. They haven't been, from what we've gathered, they haven't talked to the Pac-12 in weeks. So it is.
I don't know the linear partner. I don't know who that's going to be. Honestly, and that's what I'm saying. Like these statements that we've just gone through, right? Whether it's the statements, whether it's what George said at Media Day, like it's all a crock of shit.
Yeah,
it just is because it's a front. There's no again, if you had a partner, a linear partner, we wouldn't be here ultimately because you would have struck a deal. And no, I'm not here for this line of messaging that George ran out on Media Day during Radio Row interviews, talking about how if he knew that school, if I knew 9 months ago that people were going to start leaving, I'd have got a deal done. Okay, that's just a lie. That's just an outright, blatant lie.
And it's a terrible way to do business.
Yeah.
If it takes a school leaving for you to close a deal, you're terrible at your job.
Yeah.
You close the best deal you can get when you can get it.
Yes.
And I look at this statement, and what did they say in this statement? Like, there is nothing here.
I literally retweeted this and said, you said nothing.
You said absolutely nothing here.
Yeah.
It's remarkable to me. It is absolutely remarkable to me. Let's see. Artie Cat. Gives us $2. Sunbelt expansion rumors again. CUSA in trouble. Dude, I only got so much bandwidth, man.
Yeah, man. Come on now.
You know.
Come on now.
Dabo Sweeney's 805 winning percentage.
Okay.
For $5.
In God's name, image, and likeness.
Clemson and Florida State have been working for months to find a way out of the ACC to get into the SEC. I live in Clemson, and if FSU gets out, so does Clemson. Yeah, they've been working. I'm in the camp that says FSU has been working for 18 months to get out of this thing, like earnestly working to torpedo the ACC grant of rights.
Yeah.
I think they tried, and everybody loves to throw around, oh, man, it's the FSU coup, bro. Call it a coup. Call it what you want. They're trying to gather enough of a group to break the grant of rights. They couldn't do it.
Right.
I think they are rooting for expansion because that's their ticket out. I think that's their ticket out, and I think they know that. I do. I Dabo, I think you're right. And the funny thing is, I think Clemson's a better brand than FSU is because FSU just hasn't had the successes Clemson has had since Dabo and Jesus Christ took over the Clemson football program. You know, like he built that. Please play the drop.
We built this program on NIL. In God's name, image, and likeness. It's probably different than what you're thinking, though.
Dabo's a gem, dude.
We really did.
And not in a good way. Like, I'm not a Dabo guy.
Program.
I am not a Dabo guy. I am much more of a Lane Train guy.
Right. Lane Train. Lane Train
don't play. Right?
Right.
You go to
we have fine, Mom.
Yeah, you go to the SIP. Like, their recruiting event today is pimp, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway. But, yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I think Clemson deserves more credit. Florida State being asshats saying, oh, wow, look who's brought in the money. Yeah, Clemson has.
Yeah.
Jerks. San Diego State, Glenn, what's up, my guy? Pack leadership,
quote unquote,
is a bunch of grandpas and June cleavers with no clue of the current lay of the land. Death is imminent. F the effing pack. Wow.
I understand San Diego State fan being bitter. I completely get it. My only question for San Diego State fan, and I mean this sincerely, I don't know how you trust the leadership of your university, because if you're looking at this situation now, you really wanted to sign a contract with this conference? Really? Really? You took George Kliavkoff's line of crap, which is, yeah, we're going to secure a media rights deal. It's quote unquote imminent.
Don't fuck.
Yeah. You took imminent and you're like, all right, cool. Let's send a letter to the conference. Let's ask for a payment
hey,
plan.
Gloria.
Like,
hey, Gloria,
dude,
it's J.D. Wicker at San Diego.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
Now, look, we know you're just that little conference over there in the mountains, but we're San Diego. Whales Vagina, San Diego. Maybe you've heard of us over there.
Right.
Why don't you keep our basketball money, because we're out.
Right.
We'll send you some cinnamon tortillas from Old Town, but that's about all we can do for you. Please take me back.
It's embarrassing, dude.
Dude, San Diego
I
State.
understand why San Diego State fan is pissed.
But Glenn, you guys got to be better than that.
Oh, sure. Of course I understand why people are upset.
Good old Teddy Cruz. Brandon Butler, I think, gives us $10. Brandon, how are you? Good to see you, dude. I met Brandon at the RSL match a month ago or so. Gave me a bunch of scarves that are hanging in my athletics room.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Brandon. Why are people? Don't call me during the show, dude.
Dude is doing the show and you're calling
call
him.
me. And it's somebody I know. You know I'm fucking working. Okay, I feel better. Why would you call me during the show?
No.
Bro, you know you got a text. I think that the new college football playoff, a lot of movement is to assure that they get more auto bids. Oh, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, but
yes.
but ultimately,
Yes.
I think if you're a commissioner, you're not necessarily thinking to yourself, you know, like if you're Brett Yormark, yeah, sure, the college football playoff is absolutely something that you have to consider in your decision-making process. There's no doubt about it. But ultimately, Brett Yormark right now is trying to ensure the Big 12 survival for the next decade, because that's how the cycle works. That's all you're trying to do here. So that's why I say this line of thinking that people are running out on X and on in the media,
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, X.
Twitter's going crazy.
Yeah, you know, I just don't agree with it because it doesn't make sense. You need, like, respectfully to Arizona, you're a great brand. You are valuable. You should be in the Big 12. You need Oregon, dude. You need Oregon and you need Washington.
If Oregon and Washington are available to you, you have to take them.
You have to.
There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think, let me read the rest of Brand, because we got to talk about Utah as well. The SEC and the Big Ten don't want a weak pack getting the same amount of bids. Well, I also think that that's going to change, because I think in 2025, the auto bids are not locked in. So that's still to be determined, because I think, obviously, I think realignment was very clearly coming with all these new TV deals. And you understand that the new TV deal in the Big 12 does not start until 2025. So I think things can still change. You got to remember, the auto bids are not in cement. Everything is pliable based on how much money and pull you have, right? I mean, which is amazing why SMU has never won a national championship in the anyway. The point is, sorry, it's Friday, and you're just going to have to deal with it. My point is, Brandon, I think you're exactly right. But my question is, what happens to Utah? Because I think this is a huge, huge question mark. And I know the Utah hate on Twitter is real. And you can think of the 5 loudest mouths in Utah fan Twitter. They all DM me and apologize today.
Really?
Every single one. Yes, every single one of them. And I think they know they're in a position of great exposure, that there's a real chance. And I actually kind of raised my tail feather today. Thankfully, I was alone in my car before golf.
Okay.
Because I was actually aroused at one point.
Okay.
Cock.
When I was talking to a friend of mine in the television industry, And he said, your idea of the Mountain West and the Pac-12 merging actually came up in a meeting the other day.
How about
And
that?
it just made me feel very full inside.
Really?
To know
What's an erection?
that I am beautiful. And, that was awesome to hear that. Because I think that's ultimately what happens.
But Utah can't be in the Mountain West. There has to be a merger, or Utah's got to go somewhere. And dude, I appreciate all the Utah haters DMing you and apologizing, but ultimately, this can be a negative or this can be a positive for Utah, right? That they're at a crossroads here, like you are. You can do nothing, and you can play dumb, and you can get caught with the sinking ship, or you can jump and you can look like a genius and you can go on to chase college football championships, but you can't do both.
I just don't think that. I think Utah was, in my opinion, too loyal to this conference. They were too loyal to the Pac-12 because I don't see that Utah has a road to the Big Ten. And if Oregon is truly going to the Big 12, and I would put that at 50.5% right now, if they are truly going to the Big 12, Utah's in real trouble here. Because if Oregon goes, I don't see the value of Utah to the Big 12. Nobody thought that there would ever be a chance that Oregon and Washington could end up in the Big 12. But if you are Brett Yormark and you take Oregon and Washington, or just even Oregon, what is the value of adding Utah to the Big 12?
Yeah, there's not. Because Oregon and Washington are both better brands than Utah.
And they're just as good at football.
Yeah.
And they're just as significant in basketball.
Yeah.
And you want Oregon because you get that Nike money. And you look at the financial commitment that Oregon made to Dan Lanning.
It's sending a message, dude.
$7 million a year to be the football coach at Oregon? Dude, they're not playing around. And if Oregon goes to the Big 12, Utah is in real trouble. Real trouble. And I put it at a better than 50% chance that Oregon goes to the Big 12 right now here today.
Yeah.
And I think we will know a week from now.
Well, and we know that Phil Knight's been pining for a new conference for quite some time. I mean, this is not, certainly new. And if you're new to this conversation, just in the big picture, not our show necessarily, but just to the conversation, you need to understand Phil Knight, it's not a secret. Phil Knight's been trying to get to the Big 10 or the Big 12 for a while.
Yes.
So the idea that Oregon would go to the Big 12, while yes, is a touch surprising because we always felt like, hey, the Big 10 was a better fit. The Big 10 doesn't necessarily seem to be real aggressive, in this conversation. And so it furthers the idea that the Big 10 is going to patiently wait this thing out, and then the Big 10 and the SEC are going to go hunting in the Big 12. And so if you're the Big 12...
But I don't buy, and again, this is just my opinion. Nobody's told me this.
Yeah.
But just in conversations I've had, I get the idea that the Big 10 understands they cannot leave USC and UCLA on an island. There's just no win there.
Yeah.
So I think they are going to add, and even if it's just Stanford and Cal, they're going to add two of these teams. I have to believe that.
Makes sense.
But I don't get the idea that right now, here today, it's Oregon. I think, which is shocking. It is really shocking. But I don't get the idea. And I understand the Big Ten really values that academic piece. And I still don't see that Utah's got a road to the Big Ten. It's what I tweeted this morning. Oregon State can call and call and call and call. Oregon State doesn't have a road to the Big Ten. There's no avenue for them to get in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked that the Big Ten is not acting on Oregon and Washington at a minimum. At a minimum.
Yeah, it is surprising.
It's really surprising because you have a fix for the problems that ail you 12 months from now. You have a travel partner in place ready to go right now for USC and UCLA. And it hasn't come to fruition. And so you're in this position where, and I say the same thing about Oregon. Oregon's impact on UConn. If Oregon gets into the Big 12, UConn's no longer a discussion.
Nope.
Because I don't believe I will also sit here and say I was told point blank today the number's not 14. The number is 16. I think the Big 12 doesn't want to go past 16 because then it becomes a different thing. When you get 18, 20, it becomes a different thing. You can't control that. I think their number is 16. And I think here today, I think they'd like that 14 team to be Oregon. And if they can't get Oregon, I think they would like that 14 team to be Arizona. And if they can't get Arizona, I think they'd like that 14 team to be Utah. And if they can't get Utah, they'd like that 14 team to be San Diego State. And I think that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
I truly, today, after all of the stuff I've heard and all the people I've talked to, I believe that they want 16 teams. But they are not going to rush into this because there's no reason to rush into it. Those that want into the conference right now want into the conference 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month from now.
Yeah.
I think as long as they get this done by kickoff so that they can brand and they can market and they can ramp up, I think that's all that matters. But having it done on July 28th versus August 1st is meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless. It means nothing for finances, nothing. The Big 12 has really good TV relationships. They have an inner circle and a leadership that talks all the time. The goals are very clear. They don't have to ask permission. They know what the allowable limits are. But it is shocking to me that Oregon is on the table for the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know why the Big Ten wouldn't act. And that's the thing. That's what I think. That's what I'm most excited about moving forward in this conversation is when we begin to understand philosophy and philosophically where these conferences are at, because we know where the Big 12 is at. We know what they want to do. We understand it. It makes perfect sense. It's there. You get it.
Yes.
But the Big Ten, I don't really understand the philosophy of the Big Ten. Everyone got all caught up on Tony Petitti saying that, hey, we're really just focused on what's in front of us. And
I was told to focus on our current membership.
Yeah.
Is what Tony Petitti said.
I don't buy that for a second.
But, and I don't know, I forgot to ask everybody about this, but am I the only one that noticed Tony Petitti wasn't at Big Ten Media Day yesterday? I'm pretty sure he was there on day one. In fact, I know he was. But was he there on day two of Big Ten Media Day? I don't believe that he was.
Yeah.
So, and I can't be the only one who noticed that.
Yeah.
But you always worry about the ones who move in silence. Washington and Oregon have been almost silent on this. Almost silent. The Big Ten has been absolutely silent on this. No comment, no comment, no comment. We're focused on our current membership. By the way, does anybody remember what Brett Yormark said at Big 12 Football Media Days about expansion? Does anybody remember that? Let me remind you that he essentially said, well, you know, we're good where we're at right now. Like, he's been talking about how it wasn't a priority at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did they do all of a sudden?
Added.
All of a sudden, they
added. Yeah, they added. He said, it's not, I believe the exact, the exact phrasing he used was there's nothing on the slate right now as far as expansion is concerned. So that's why I say I don't believe what Tony Petitti is saying. I don't believe Brett Yormark. I don't believe Oregon State's statement, and I don't believe Colorado's statement. I don't put
You're pretty adamant you don't believe Tony Petitti.
I don't believe Tony Petitti. Don't feed me a line of garbage, dude. I know that you're talking to these schools. It's your job, right? It's your famous saying that you've tokened, right? If you're not having the conversation, you should be.
You're irresponsible.
Right?
If you're not having the conversation, you're acting irresponsibly.
Yeah, and that's why I think George Kliavkoff finds himself in this situation, because he clearly didn't want to have the conversations. And so when you don't want to have the conversations, whether it's TV partners at ESPN and Fox or Apple or these schools, whoever, Your job as a commissioner is to know everybody, to have all the information, to be able to speak confidently and intelligently about that information, and then to lead the conference down the yellow brick road to viability, which is exactly what George Kliavkoff has not done. So that's why I say when I look at Tony Petitti, when I look at Brett Yormark, right, these guys, and even Greg Sankey, these guys have been speaking very confidently in speaking in a way that pushes the conference forward. So when I look at Tony Petitti, dude just doing his job with what he said. Oh, we're just focused on SC and UCLA. No, you're not. How could you be? You have, to your point about them being on an island, you got to add more schools, man.
Well, more to the point, if you're focused on USC and UCLA, aren't you focused on getting them travel partners?
Yes.
Aren't you focused on, if you're focused on what's best for your current membership, aren't you focused on getting them travel partners so that they have shorter trips to make? Because right now it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense financially or logistically for their student athletes. Those are longer trips.
Yes.
I don't want to go and play Rutgers. That's a long-ass trip. But I think you have to mitigate that. And if you truly are focused on your current membership, you are. And I go back to all this talk about expansion. And I want to say it was John Kurtz had on the deputy commissioner of the Big 12 who talked about getting to 14. And it'll just be really interesting to see where the Big 10 and where the Big 12 land on this. I have to believe, from what I've heard, that the number is 16 in the Big 12.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice number. I think that's a number that you can handle. It's a number you can control. Yeah. I also think this concept of, hey, if we add a school like Oregon or Washington or any kind of big nameplate, what is our risk in 5 years of them not being in the conference, right? And so when we talk about, 12, 14, 16, you need to find a number that's comfortable and also benefits everybody. Because if Oregon's happy and they're making money and they're getting good opportunity, odds are they're going to want to stay in your conference. It's going to be hard for the Big 12 in 10, 11 years to contend with 6-7
years.
Right. To contend with $100 million. That's not going to be easy to contend with.
Because and I think this is what we've been talking about, is that I think the Big 12 right now in this current cycle is rock solid.
Yeah.
But it's not right now that you're worried about. You're always worried about that next deal, which is why Brett Yormark's relationship with his TV partners is so important. And it really is one of those things where if I'm the Big 12, I'm thinking about getting to 16 as soon as I can.
Yeah.
Because I just, 16 is the right number. 16 is the right number. Let's continue to get some of your comments in here on the Monty Show as we talk about the latest on Big 12 expansion. Thanks to our friends at Super Chicks in Ogden on Riverdale Road, also in St. George. If you haven't been to Super Chicks yet, no matter where you are, dude, Super Chicks is fantastic. And the thing that separates Super Chicks from all the other chicken sandwiches is it's always fresh, never frozen chicken breast. It's always a breast of chicken. It's not thigh meat. And the thing that's really cool, if you go into a Super Chicks, you're going to notice that, specifically up on Riverdale Road in Ogden and in St. George, the staff is super friendly because it's a family-owned business. 4 brothers own that business. Their dad works in the store. Their wives work in the store. It's a family business. They grind. They work really hard to build that thing up, right? So the owners of the business are in there cutting onions every day. Tomatoes, lettuce, all their produce, their pickles are all chopped in-house fresh every single day. They have the best buns. They have the best fries, which are also fresh chopped in-house every day. Forget about the custard. Because the custard's really good. Super Chicks on Riverdale Road in Ogden, also down in St. George. Big shout out to everybody in St. George. Love every single one of you. Aaron Wilson for $2. The Monty Show is now a Texas user-based showroom. Could be. Could absolutely be. We have a huge following in Texas. Shout out, by the way, Rodney, who lives outside of Houston, sent me a DM and said he found the show the week of Big 12 football media days. And he says, hey, I stopped watching that other show. Don't stop watching the other show. Just make sure you find the Monty Show. Make sure you watch us. We're all a community. We're all working together. Rising tide raises all ships. I love that you guys are competitive. I love that you guys support our show. And I really appreciate everybody being here. And we have over the last couple of months really grown our Texas fan base. Appreciate everybody in Lubbock. Appreciate everybody in Dallas, Houston. Tarrant County. Thank you. Everybody in Oklahoma. I know the Pokes are strong on this show. Appreciate you guys. Well, I can't remember his name in particular, but he told me, stop talking about Texas. They're dead to me. They're leaving the conference. Well,
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, they'll be dead to you once they win the conference this year.
Yeah.
I know, they're going to disappoint. Hero75 gives us $10 to say, part of me hopes and thinks that the reason the Big Ten is not more active is because the schools they are after already know the deal they would offer to them when they got vetted and cleared weeks ago. I think that's part of it.
Yeah,
could be. Certainly.
Could be.
These are not new conversations. And I think timing is everything. Let's wait and see. Does the Arizona Board of Regents have a meeting next week? Because that's really where it's rare that you're going to get somebody to say, hey, yeah, we're moving. Or you're going to find that there's a Board of Regents meeting that pops up on a schedule.
Yeah.
That's where you hear about stuff like this. I know it sounds stupid, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Cowboy Country gives us $5 to say, I've seen Rice Eccles in person, did 2 videos on it. Utah has great facilities and a great head coach. Big 14 needs Utah, 2-time Pac-12 champs. Well, and it's Rice Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, newly renovated, loud, impossible place to go win a football game.
Mm-hmm.
It is very difficult, and I will again say Kyle Whittingham's a top 5 coach in this country. And what he's done year after year, I mean, they kept running when Urban Meyer left, which should be all you need to know about Whit. But the fact that he built this program to the level that it's at now, with really an emphasis on defense, they've rarely had one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the conference. Rarely. This has always been a conservative offense. And I give Whit credit because he's changed that philosophy quite a bit now, it feels like.
Yeah.
With Cam and Brankeithy and the commitment to always having a solid offensive line, like Kyle Whittingham gets it. He wins in the trenches. He recruits well. He treats people well. He hires well. He promotes from within. What they have at Utah is something that is not often seen in this country.
Yeah.
It truly is not. And I don't say that. I don't say that lightly. Dabo Sweeney's win percentage, making you guys commissioner in the Pac-12. Let's say Oregon State goes to the Big 12, and you're at 8. What 4 schools would you guys add? Well, San Diego State.
Yeah.
I think I would try to get Boise. I think that's going to be a tough add. I would try to get Boise. I'd add Tulane and SMU. I would. Because if SMU is good for anything, they're good for money.
Yeah, I think I like the concept more of merging with the Mountain West. I have to be honest. I think it's.
But that if we're talking about 4 schools, you would add. Sure. If I were the presidents of the Pac-12, I would already be trying to merge with the Mountain West.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would.
I mean, I appreciate the question, but to be honest with you, like, I wouldn't be trying to add 4 schools. I just wouldn't. I think the candidates. None of them are attractive outside of San Diego State. And San Diego State really is only attractive because of its geography. Like,
I was asked today if the Pac-12 is going to get $15 million a year. Think about that. Can they get $15 million a year per school in a TV deal? Because I don't care what anybody says. Having 9 schools is not a P5 conference. You can't have 9.
Yeah.
And you can't just throw in Tommy's Hair Salon School of Awesomeness.
Better send those refunds.
And call yourself a P5 with 10 schools.
Yeah.
That's not going to get the job done.
No, and it's a bad look, dude.
I'm in the party that says I don't know that they can get $15 million a year now. Because they're viewed as damaged goods.
Yeah, well, they are damaged goods. You are, and that's what I was saying earlier. Like, if you're a TV partner and you're looking at this conference, like, just how valuable is it? Because the conference as an entity is no longer valuable. You have matchups and opportunity within the conference, but the conference as a whole, it doesn't... Dude, you can't walk into a room and say, man, we've got a $400 million deal with the Pac-12. We're the head honcho. No, dude, it doesn't work.
Trust me when I say in sales, perception is reality.
Yeah.
Perception's reality. And the perception is that you're damaged goods and you are not worth what you were worth a week ago. So we can sit here and bullshit about, hey, the longer we wait, the more schools will leave. Because that's what you were saying. And that's what happened. And I think this conference is in real trouble. I wouldn't add schools. I agree. I would absolutely merge with the Mountain West. Pick 4 from a priority list: Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, ASU, Utah, Oregon State, UConn. Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Utah. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
And Oregon State's far more valuable than UConn.
Yep. Jet Wayman, how the heck are you? Congratulations on 20K, guys. You've come a long way. I'm happy to be a part of it. You are a huge part of it.
Tile King of Utah, bro.
You are a huge part of it, Jet. We may have something coming up for you, Jet. Like that might make you very happy. Carson, Utah has been a stand-up company, man. I think they are gone by end of next week. Well,
dude, I hope so. And I really do. I don't want to have a conversation on this show about Utah having to consider the Mountain West. I don't want to have that conversation.
I'm terrified of that because they deserve better.
They
and I
do.
think if I'm Kyle Whittingham, I'm already in the retirement window. Kyle Whittingham could retire today and nobody would. It would not hurt his legacy or resume even a little bit. Even a little bit. But it would be a tragic loss for college football if Utah winds up in the Mountain West, because you just can't afford to operate on a P5 level at $4 million a year. You just can't. And I don't know what you do about that, because, I mean, at that point, I think you have to contemplate your future over a Papa Murphy's bowl of marinara meatballs.
At Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do meatballs and marinara.
Papa Murphy's does meatballs?
Oh, I think you mean I do the meatballs and marinara?
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it? How do I do it?
Oh, well, we do it with savory ground beef
Covered in tangy marinara. That's how, honey.
At Papa Murphy's, we make great pizza.
And don't forget the meatballs.
Order now at papamurphys.com.